reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
Liberalism is back in style. Welcome to the evolution.
What if you knew Fox News was just lying to you? How could you watch when you know?
He was voted Variety Entertainer of the Year in the Excellence in the Arts Award. And is one of the highest Arbitron, now Nielsen-rated talk radio hosts in Las Vegas. He is also a refreshing voice of logic and reason. Live from the entertainment capital of the world, Doug Basham.
And good morning, my fellow wokes and Republican jokes. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Doug Basham, and welcome to the Doug Basham Show right here on KSHP in Las Vegas and on social media, and to a genuine demonstration of excellence in broadcasting. Hey, everybody. Great to see you all again. I am Doug Basham, your certified card-carrying member in good standing of the Enemy Within Brigade, also known as one radical leftist lunatic who needs to be handled by the American military. And who knows, they might just be right. I welcome you all to day 9 of Mourning in America. Mourning spelled with a U, of course, as those of us who respect our Constitution grieve the loss of the great American experiment in self-governance and democracy and anxiously await the stroke that will save America and mankind. My website is DougBasham.com, last name spelled B as in Bob, A-S-H-A-M as in Matt Gaetz. DougBasham.com, my email, Doug@DougBasham.com. That said, I extend a warm yet disconsolate welcome to those of you listening on KSHP AM 1400 and 107.1 FM on your radio dial here in Las Vegas. We are also broadcasting on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, TikTok, and of course, Twitter/X. Now, if you go to my website, again, DougBasham.com, you will discover it's all of one page. At the top, you'll find the show's logo. Underneath, 11 links, most to my social media sites, also one to contact me via email. Now, the two links I would like to call your attention to the most are, 1, my YouTube page, and 2, my TikTok page. On my YouTube page, I would respectfully ask you hit the subscribe button. On TikTok, please hit the red follow button. And hey, if you would like to watch this show live and not just listen to it, reason being when I play clips, I don't play audio clips, I play video clips. Also, because as you can plainly see, this face was made for television. From my website, go to my YouTube, Facebook, or X pages. And if I happen to violate YouTube policies and they suspend my stream mid-show, just go back to my website, then to my Facebook page, or to my X page. 221-7283 is our call-in number here at the station, folks. If you want to talk on the radio somewhere in our second half hour together, that's 702-221-SAVE, as in Save Our Democracy, something we failed to do on Tuesday and miserably. And now, on to our broken news for the day. Before we get to our main story for the day, I have to preface it with this. Yesterday afternoon, I had to make a run to the grocery store to get something I didn't have for the dinner I was planning on making. So on my way over, I'm listening to 840 KXNT, and Mark Levin was on, spewing his usual nasally hatred and lies. And he was talking about the Senate race in Pennsylvania, in which Democrat Bob Casey is running for re-election. And this is what Levin said: Democrats are trying to steal that Senate seat. The truth is, if a race like this is within a 0.5% margin, which this race is, a statewide recount is automatically triggered under Pennsylvania law. Neither party or candidate has to request one. It's automatic. So no, Democrats aren't trying to steal this Senate race. Levin went on to say, I told you weeks ago, Democrats are not going to accept the results of this election. Seriously? The guy for whom Levin so shamelessly shills and lies on a daily basis for 3 hours a day and then 1 hour a day on weekends at Fox Noise, that guy still hasn't accepted the results of the 2020 election, which was 4 years ago. And he's accusing Democrats of not accepting the results of this election? Hey, I wish he was right. I've been bitching and moaning since the election that Democrats are accepting the results of this election far better than they should, and not doing anything about it except filling their drawers over what Trump is doing and will continue to do. You want an example? Listen to what Democratic Congressman Jamie Raskin said just a couple days after the election.
It reminds me that just like there are cycles in life, there are cycles in politics. And sometimes the game runs against us and sometimes in our favor. But we've got a midterm election coming up just in 2 years. We're going to start looking for candidates in just a few months.
Now, as much as I love, admire, and respect Jamie Raskin, and I do, I think he's one of the good guys in Congress, that's a response to last Tuesday's result I can't quite abide. Well, we have the midterms in 2026. Yeah, and Trump will still be president for 2 more years after that. And are you really that confident that we'll have a free and fair election in 2026? And more importantly, in 2028? Are you supremely confident there'll be an election at all in 2028? And just maybe, you should focus your attention on 2024, as in right friggin' now. And then there was Joe Biden's meeting with Trump at the White House yesterday. Check this clip out, which will be followed by MSNBC's Chris Hayes' comment on it.
Well, Mr. President-elect and former President, thank you, Donald, congratulations.
Thank you.
And looking forward to having a, like we said, smooth transition. Do everything we can to make sure you're accommodated, what you need. And we're going to get a chance to talk about some of that today. So
good.
Welcome
Thank you
back.
very much. And thank you very much. And politics is tough. And it's, many cases, not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate it very much. A transition that's so smooth, it'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Jim.
You're welcome.
Are you still watching? Have you thrown the remote or switched? I don't exactly blame you.
Now, I don't know about you, but that whole scene just sickened me. Way to go, Joe. Give the guy you know in your heart of hearts has no business whatsoever being allowed within 200 miles of the halls of power and the White House ever again. Tell him you'll give him whatever he needs in order to carry out his promise to terminate our Constitution. Tell him you'll roll out the red carpet and that you're only too willing to sacrifice our Constitution so that you can feel good about honoring our Constitution. Again, I gotta ask, on what planet does that make sense? And it reminds me of something that those who have far more expertise in fascism than I do have said, namely that fascism is rarely taken, but rather it is given freely. And I keep trying to remind Democrats, you're still the party in power and will be for the next 2 months plus a week. You have the White House, you have the Senate, Joe Biden has presidential immunity. For the love of all things holy, just do something. And what's frustrating is that I'm shouting into a vacuum. This show, in its meticulous, unparalleled research and unique perspectives, should be heard across this entire nation, and not just on a local radio station in Las Vegas and a few social media sites. But it's a heavy lift just to keep this show on the air locally. And more on that maybe as soon as tomorrow. Now, with all that said, if you will forgive me, I have to begin our main segment today by exclaiming, damn you, Donald Trump. Damn you all to hell for making it next to impossible for me to not cover the quote-unquote man you floated yesterday to be your attorney general. When I finished yesterday's show and immediately began preparing today's show, which is what I do every day, even on Friday. Remember, I have no life. This show is my life. But if someone had asked me, what do you least want to have to discuss tomorrow? Matt Jailbait Gaetz likely would have been real close to the top of my list. I mean, if there has ever been a slimier, greasier, more condescending, self-important prick to ever serve in government, other than the orange trader himself, of course, he's king prick, you would be hard-pressed to find someone worse than Matt Jailbait Gaetz. And so, the first question might be, how did Matt Gaetz rise from an unknown backbencher congressman to one of the better-known and most obnoxious Republicans in Congress? Answer: by attaching himself to Donald Trump like a leech attaches or latches onto your leg when you swim in a dirty pond. Been there, done that. Nasty little suckers. In any event, I thought an appropriate place to go further with this morbid story might be to explain for those who may not know exactly why I call him Matt Jailbait Gaetz. First, we hear from New York Times investigative reporter Michael Schmidt, who just so happens to be, also for those who don't know, my gal Nicole Wallace's husband.
I mean, I can't help but look at it through the lens of our reporting on Gaetz. In May of 2021, just a couple of months after January 6th, we reported that Gaetz was under investigation by the Justice Department for whether he had this sexual relationship with a 17-year-old girl and paid for her to travel. And this was ultimately a pretty extensive investigation that looked at whether Gaetz had violated a law that would have had a mandatory minimum of a 10-year prison sentence. And so if he had been charged with this crime of sex trafficking a minor and convicted, there would be no wiggle room on the sentence. He would have gone away for 10 years. And it was a pretty serious investigation. It focused and was the chief witness against him was a guy named Joel Greenberg, who was a former local tax collector in Florida, who said he had participated with Gaetz in these activities with this 17-year-old girl. And there was extensive evidence that Greenberg and his lawyer, Fritz Scheller, had provided to the government about Gaetz's involvement with the girl. And there was a big question out there. Was Gaetz going to get indicted? And this really hung over Gaetz. And ultimately, the Justice Department declined to charge Gaetz. And some of the department never gave a reason for that. The department usually doesn't when they decide not to charge someone, but they allowed Gaetz to put out a statement in which he said he had not been charged. And some of the question about whether he wasn't charged was it because the girl was basically 17 3/4 and close to 18? Was that the reason why they had not brought the charge, that she was so close to the age of 18? Because had he been charged with it and had he been convicted, it would have been a 10-year mandatory minimum sentence in prison, which is obviously as serious as it comes at the federal level.
No kidding. Dave Ehrenberg, Palm Beach County, Florida State Attorney, gives us more details further to what Mike Schmidt just gave us.
Turning our coverage, MSNBC political analyst Tim Miller's here, former RNC spokesman, now host of the Bulwark podcast, and state attorney for Palm Beach County, Florida. Dave Ehrenberg is here. Dave, we've been talking to New York Times reporter Mike Schmidt about the investigation that went on for a few years into sex trafficking allegations and the decision by DOJ not to ultimately charge Matt Gaetz, but that his former acquaintance, Mr. Greenberg, is currently in prison and had offered some pretty, I guess in another time, would be disqualifying testimony or associations about the man who, if confirmed, will be America's next Attorney General. Your thoughts?
It is a sign of the times that we're actually talking about Matt Gaetz being confirmed for Attorney General. It's shocking because he was very close to being indicted by the Department of Justice. And I think the reason why he wasn't was that the two key witnesses against him, Joel Greenberg and the then underage girl, both had credibility problems. Joel Greenberg is a walking criminal enterprise. He had lied about his previous political opponent being a pedophile. So the government was not going to rely on him. And as far as the alleged victim, she lied about her age and went on this sugar daddy type of website and now does adult films. And I'm not castigating someone for their choice of employment, but it doesn't have jury appeal. So the DOJ looked at both of them and said, we need more. And so they subpoenaed Matt Gaetz's former girlfriend, who actually is legit, who worked for the federal government, the state government, and she was given immunity to testify before the grand jury. And apparently she only gave him up on the witness tampering issue. And unless you have an underlying crime against a sitting congressman, the DOJ was not going to prosecute Matt Gaetz for tampering with a witness. And so they let it go. Now, the House Ethics Committee is continuing to subpoena documents and even was going to subpoena Matt Gaetz himself in an attempt to possibly throw him out of Congress like George Santos. Kevin McCarthy was behind this. But now, who knows what's going to happen? The only thing I can say is because Gaetz has so many enemies, including Kevin McCarthy, powerful enemies, there is a chance that enough Republicans in the Senate could block the nomination.
Did you hear what he said? They weren't going to indict a congressman if all they had him on was witness tampering. You think that would work for you or me? And interestingly, after Trump made this announcement yesterday, Gaetz immediately resigned from Congress, even though he had just won re-election last Tuesday by 32 points. Why did he resign? Rumor has it the House Ethics Committee was all set to release what's been described as their damaging report on Gaetz' scandals. But with him resigning, Congress loses its ability to further investigate and release their report. That's the buzz. So let us now start winding our way through this latest sad Trump saga. And let's start with a couple comments I'd like you to hear from the former Democratic senator from Missouri, Claire McCaskill.
Yeah, there's a couple of things about this. First, I have to think that there are more than 4 votes that would not show up for Matt Gaetz in the Republican caucus. I did a quick rundown of the Republican senators, and I came up with 11 names that I think would likely oppose a Matt Gaetz. Now, half or more of those could disappoint America and vote for someone who is so wholly unqualified for this job in so many ways.
And as you will soon see and hear, Claire ended up changing her mind with regards to Republican senators saving us from Matt Gaetz. One other thing Claire said I want you to hear.
And by the way, the recess appointment thing, are we really at the point that this Supreme Court would say that the Attorney General of the United States can be put in place without advice and consent of the Senate of the United States Constitution? Have we gotten to that point? Because that's what we're talking about.
Yes, Claire, We have gotten to that point whereby we can have less than zero confidence in this Supreme Court. I mean, why do you think they bowed to Trump's will before the election and delayed all his cases with their ridiculous presidential immunity ruling? Maybe it was done out of fear, hoping he wouldn't abolish them if he happened to win the election. You think they're going to start going against him now, knowing how little regard he has for our cherished democratic institutions, including our founding documents? And in this case, our former cherished institution known as the Supreme Court. I highly doubt it, and cherished hardly describes this Supreme Court. Now let's listen to this exchange between my gal Nicole Wallace and Dave Loftman. Dave is the former chief of counterintelligence in the National Security Division at the DOJ. And Dave brings up something you hear repeatedly on this show, Trump's complete disregard for the rule of law. Preach, Brother Dave.
Well, Nicole, if you're not going to be glib, then I will. This is really a vomit in your mouth moment for alumni of the Department of Justice and for people around the United States who care about the rule of law. The Justice Department is the cornerstone of the rule of law in our country. And this nomination reflects the crudest contempt and disrespect for the rule of law, the Department of Justice as an institution, and for the thousands of men and women across this country who every day strive to carry out their mission to represent the people of the United States and the rules of the United States Constitution and bring justice around this country.
Well, I don't know that you will find an anchor who's covered more earnestly the failed efforts by the Department of Justice under two presidents to hold Donald Trump accountable. And I think that an honest look by all those people vomiting in their mouth has to include a look at how Robert Mueller failed to hold Donald Trump accountable or to clearly say that he should be indicted for the 6 acts of criminal obstruction of justice. And Merrick Garland failed to ever turn his sights to Donald Trump's role in the deadly insurrection until after the congressional probe. Is that part of the calculation for the very, very, very serious and important and respected folks who have the same sort of universal reaction to Matt Gaetz?
I don't know. Look, he's bent on retribution and vengeance. He still carries a grudge over the initiation and conduct of the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election, which I helped oversee until Bob Mueller was appointed. The president-elect in his public statement announcing the Gaetz nomination, said that Gaetz would help bring about the de-weaponization of the Department of Justice. If he's confirmed, it will be precisely the opposite. He will turn the Department of Justice into a petting zoo for the new president. And it's just going to demolish morale within the department. I can only hope that, my former colleagues do, certainly what I tried to do for a long time and stand pat, hold your ground, continue to do the right thing as you see it under your oath, day in and day out.
Yes, Dave, we all hope for that, but then there's reality and there's Donald Trump. I hope you're right, but you will forgive me if I don't hold my breath. And I got to be honest, when I first heard this announcement yesterday, my first thought was Matt Gaetz is not a serious person. He's a troll under the bridge who failed upwards in life, mostly with daddy's help. And there's no way in Hades he's going to be confirmed. I mean, it's no secret that Matt Gaetz's own colleagues can't stand him and have mocked him publicly. Even the dishonest media whores at Fox News have had less than flattering things to say about him. Here are, in order, Trey Gowdy, Mark Levin, and Dagan McDowell.
I can't tell you the psychiatric diagnosis. I can just tell you it's dangerous for the Republican Party.
You need to put your country ahead of your own personal hatred, man. You got to get control of it, brother. But he won't.
I would compare him to that toddler that we've all seen at the family barbecue, eating toilet paper, shoving Cheerios up his nose to get attention.
Well, now that's a little harsh. Who among us hasn't eaten toilet paper while shoving Cheerios up their nose at a family barbecue? Remind me to never attend one of Dagan McDowell's family barbecues. I mean, I'm okay with the Cheerios up the nose thing, but eating toilet paper? I mean, you got to draw the line somewhere. But seriously, though, folks, you watch. Every single one of these Fox lickspittles will change their tune the longer this Matt Gaetz topic remains in the headlines. And as is always the case, they will fall in line behind what their dear leader and master Trump wants. And I save this one for last because it proves my point. This is what Senator Mark Wayne Mullen had to say about jailbait Gaetz before the Orange Trader nominated him to be Secretary of Defense. This was back when Gaetz was leading the charge to dispose of then House Speaker Kevin McCarthy.
It wasn't too long ago that no one would even touch him because he was being accused of sleeping with underage girls, which honestly there was no colleagues that came out and defended him because quite frankly, the stuff that he would show on the floor and the stuff he would brag about on the floor before he was married, we probably thought, well, that's reasonable, and we would always have to walk away from him. And so this individual that you have here, I don't think what he's done is something to be expelled, but this is something that his constituents back in Florida should make a hard look at. I mean, there was many times that he would go out on news programs in the evening, and he would tell me personally, hey, I've got to go sell my constituent catheters, because all he was doing was selling himself, and evidently his constituent base is an older base, and that he thought that was funny. To me, that's not funny. You take your job and make it serious, do what's right by it, and serve. This isn't an opportunity for you just to have an opportunity to promote yourself, which that was what Matt Gaetz' goals was. And so now that he wasn't relevant before Speaker McCarthy, the Speaker McCarthy opposing him has made him a credible candidate somehow and allowed him to get all the attention that he was seeking beforehand. And he's going to continue to do this, even if it's the next speaker, because he has to seek that attention. I mean, remember what I said, Emma, this is retail politics. This has nothing to do with policy or principle anymore. The first time I ever met this guy, he walked up to me, and Kristi Noem at the time was at the podium. He was speaker, or he was elected at the time. He was a member-elect, so we was going through conference and orientation, and he walked up to me as Kristi Noem, now Governor Kristi Noem, and he said, man, she's a fine, and you can put the B word in place there. And I looked at him, I said, really? Because Kristi is a very close friend of mine, and he turned around and walked away. Later, I will say he came up and apologized for that. But he still shouldn't have said it. It was completely out of line, and this is the type of individual Matt Gaetz is.
Clearly not a fan. Senator Mark Wayne Mullen.
Clearly not a fan. You think? In another appearance, Mark Wayne Mullen said this.
You got to think about this guy. This is a guy that the media didn't give a time of day to after he was accused of sleeping with an underage girl. And there's a reason why no one in the conference came and defended him, because we had all seen the videos he was showing on the House floor that all of us had walked away of the girls that he had slept with. He'd brag about how he would crush ED medicine and chase it with an energy drink so he could go all night. This is obviously before you got married. And so when that accusation came out, no one defended him, and then no one on the media would give him a time of the day. All of a sudden he found fame because he opposed the Speaker of the House back in November. And he's always stayed there, and he was never going to leave until he got this last moment of fame by going after a motion to vacate.
Now, this story about Gaetz showing videos of women and girls I assume he slept with on the House floor has been widely reported. And in fact, the only person who has denied it is Matt Gaetz. And that brings us to Mark Wayne Mullen after Trump's announcement just last night. He is first asked about Trump's demand for recess appointments, and of course, he sides with dear cult leader. He is then asked if he'll vote for Matt Gaetz for defense secretary. Who do you think he sides with, huh? I'll give you two guesses, and the first one doesn't count.
It's not ideal. The ideal way is for us to move forward, but if that's the last resort, we will absolutely do it. If Chuck Schumer
and the Democrats in the Senate want to keep us from making any of these appointments, we are going to do our best to do whatever we have to do to get the cabinet in a position and get the appointments in a position so President Trump can go to work on day one. So we will do whatever it takes, but that's the last
resort. Are you going to vote for Matt Gaetz?
You know, Matt Gaetz and I, there's no question that we've had our differences. They've been very public about it. I completely trust President Trump's decision-making on this one. But at the same time, he's got to come to Congress and sell himself. There's a lot of, or to the Senate and sell himself. There's a lot of questions that are going to be out there. He's got to answer those questions. And hopefully he's able to answer the questions right. And if he can, then we'll go through the confirmation process.
I completely trust President Trump's decision-making on this one. No, he doesn't. He's lying through his teeth. He knows Matt Gaetz is wholly unqualified for the position of Attorney General or any other position. He also knows the last person he should trust on their decision-making is the orange cockroach. But like that Mother Tucker Carlson said a couple weeks ago,
no. There has to be a point at which Dad comes home. Yeah, that's right. Dad comes home. And he's pissed. Dad is pissed. And when Dad gets home, you know what he says? You've been a bad girl. You've been a bad little girl, and you're getting a vigorous spanking right now. And no, it's not going to hurt me more than it hurts you. No, it's not. I'm not going to lie. This is going to hurt you a lot more than it hurts me. And you earned this. You're getting a vigorous spanking because you've been a bad girl. And it has to be this way.
That's right, Mark Wayne, Billy Bob, Cletus, Calvin, Hudson, Dakota, Jebediah. Dad's home. And you surely don't want him pissed at you, now do you? Don't want Dad pulling down your drawers on his anti-social media site and spanking you, do you? Although I believe both Trump and that Mother Tucker Carlson would prefer to spank young girls. But quite the 180, wasn't it? From someone who sleeps with young girls and shows videos of same on the House floor to, well, he's got to come to the Senate and answer questions, and hopefully he's able to answer those questions right. And if he can, well, by golly gee, we'll confirm him. Truly, truly sad. Typical, but sad nonetheless. And Mark Wayne Mullen wasn't the only one who spoke publicly on Gaetz' 17-year-old conundrum. Here's the former House Speaker whom Gaetz ousted, Kevin McCarthy.
I'll give you the truth why I'm not Speaker. It's because one person, a member of Congress, wanted me to stop an ethics complaint because he slept with a 17-year-old. An ethics complaint that started before I ever became Speaker, and that's illegal, and I'm not going to get in the middle.
And here's the Republican congressman from Ohio, Max Miller.
I just think it's silly. I believe that the president is probably rewarding him for being such a loyal soldier to the president. But the president is smart enough and his team is smart enough to know that Mr. Gaetz will never get confirmed by the Senate. Mr. Gaetz breaks things to break things, and then once he breaks it even more. And that is somebody who should not be the Attorney General of the United States. I can tell you, I'm not the only one out of 222 that we'll end up with that is happy that he is leaving this conference.
But back to my earlier point, knowing how much Matt Gaetz is hated by his colleagues, I immediately wrote the story off thinking there would be no way he would be confirmed. And in that vein, I want you to hear NBC correspondent Ali Vitale's report. And by the way, Ali Vitale is just a hoot. She's a great reporter with an even better sense of humor. You know, when the moment calls for comedy or allows for it. But Ali alluded to this element of Gaetz not being able to be confirmed in a report. And this clip came right after Nicole Wallace played the clip of Mark Wayne talking about Gaetz crushing ED medicine. Watch Nicole's reaction. It's almost like she didn't know what ED stood for. Understandable, as no guy she's ever been with has ever had to use it. Oh, that was smooth. Or, as the disgusting Limbaugh aberration used to say, that was slicker than a greased-up pool boy, smoother than KY jelly on glass. That was slicker than grits and gravy on a walrus's ass, and smoother than a skin boat sliding into Tuna Town. And Nicole, any truth to the rumor your husband's in really bad health? I noticed when you spoke to him earlier, he was on the phone. He didn't come down to the studio. Is he at home sick? In hospice, maybe? Watch Nicole right here. Too adorable for words. And look at the look on Ali Vitale's face as Nicole introduces her. In particular, her eyes.
ED medicine? Is that erectile dysfunction medicine? Wow. We are not covering America's best. Joining our coverage, NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent who works in the building where that gentleman, that senator, Republican senator, just told this extraordinary story about America's incoming attorney general. He was, quote, crushing ED medicine, chasing it with energy drinks so he could, quote, go all night. America's next AG, Allie?
Not quite the introduction I ever thought I would have in my place of work, but here we are. Look, I have been talking to my sources, Nicole, as they digest this news. I can tell you that the rancor from within Gaetz's own colleagues is not something that's just being talked about by now Senator Markwayne Mullin. He, of course, had served in the House prior to coming to the Senate, but it's coming from people who are his own House Republican colleagues right now. As this news was put out on social media, I'm told, along with my colleague Scott Wong, that House Republican lawmakers had every range of reactions, from gasping to audibly saying, oh my God. Some of them thought that maybe they misread something or that it wasn't real, but certainly we know now that this is President-elect Trump's pick to lead the Department of Justice. Putting aside the concerns about if this is good for a House Republican majority that is barely large enough to function, there is, I think, a pretty sizable amount of ire and, frankly, hatred of Matt Gaetz from some of his colleagues here on Capitol Hill. You have to remember there are layers to this, as there often are, and I know that you guys have talked about the ones from the legal and the Department of Justice perspective, but here on Capitol Hill, part of the reason why Gaetz doesn't boast a lot of people coming out and celebrating this is, one, because they think he won't get Senate confirmed. And I think that leads us to a whole nother conversation about which of these senators is willing to be the first to stand up and say no to Trump. The other piece of this, though, is that Gaetz is the one who orchestrated the ouster of Kevin McCarthy just about a year ago. And that's something that earned him no friends within the House Republican conference. There are some of them who are openly at this point saying that they're happy to see him leave the conference because they don't want him as a colleague anymore. But then they're also happy to watch him have a failure of a confirmation hearing because they don't think that the Senate will grant him the votes to actually get to this position. I don't know that we know that at this point. We are hearing from Republican senators who are saying that he's going to have a long way to go, a lot of convincing to do, that it's going to be a tough confirmation process. We've also heard just in the last few minutes from Senator Chris Murphy on the Democratic side of the aisle saying that this is a red alert moment for democracy. And so this is very much roiling Capitol Hill in real time as we start to see this Trump cabinet take shape. I will say, yesterday we were tracking the reaction on Pete Hegseth for Department of Defense, and we heard senators basically say, who, what, wow. Those were the reactions. I think the Gaetz pick here is shocking even more people as they see this cabinet start to take shape.
I love Ali Vitale. And given what she just said and everything else we've heard today, that was all the confirmation I needed last night. Matt Gaetz was and is not going to be confirmed. No need to pursue this story any further. It's just one more instance of the orange trader trolling America using another troll. But then I said, what the heck, I'll keep watching and listening to see what everyone else thinks, thinking they'd all agree with me. They did not. And I'm going to save those juicy morsels for tomorrow because we have people waiting on the phone, and as always, we're happy to talk to them. And if you would like to talk, our phone number here at the station is 702-221-7283. That's area code 702-221-SAVE. To the phones we charge, and we'll begin with our good friend Forrest. You're first. Thanks for calling.
Doug. Interesting conversation. I'll keep it short. As you know, I was shocked and devastated by Trump taking every swing state. I just couldn't believe that happened. But there's more people. You and I have to admit this. There's more people out there right now that disagree with us than agree with us, and that's why that happened. But anyway, I think he will way overplay his whole card. And I think he's going to go down in flames. But my question to you is, by March 1st, I'll put a date on it. By March 1st, in your opinion, give me a percentage. What percentage chance do you think Matt Gaetz has of being our Attorney General by March 1st? What percentage?
You know, if I go with my gut, I would have to say he's not going to be confirmed. That was what I thought right from the moment I heard that Trump had made that announcement. But the sound bites I'm going to save and play tomorrow, a lot of people are disagreeing with me, and they make a good point why they are disagreeing. But
okay, I'm putting the number at 50-50. That I honestly believe he has as much chance because Trump has that much control over Republicans that this crazy person, Matt Gaetz, could be the Attorney General. And I think there's a 50% chance enough Republicans will stand up to him. But I put it right at 50-50.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, the day that we have to depend on Trump sycophants and lickspittles to save us, even from people like Matt Gaetz, those are scary times for us.
Yes, it is. And I'm going to let you go and talk to other people.
Hey, I appreciate it, Forrest. You take care, and thanks for the call.
Okay.
221-7283 is the call-in number. That's area code 702-221-SAVE. Let's go back to the phones. We'll talk to Big Bad John. You're next. Thanks for calling.
Hey, Doug. Wow. All I can say is wow. Forrest, I put the number at 50% too. I was just playing along in my head there. And this is the final straw. I mean, this is Trump is during his first administration was complaining that he didn't have a Roy Cohn. He was always looking for his next Roy Cohn, and he thought that would be the Attorney General. And Bill Barr was his whore for a while, and he tried to cover it up and do a two-step. But if Matt Gaetz is confirmed as Attorney General, it's over, boys and girls. Whoever with that senator that said it's a red light moment for democracy or a red line or whatever he said, it's 100% true. If Matt Gaetz is confirmed as Attorney General, it's over. This 250-year experiment called democracy and the greatest document ever written by man, the United States Constitution, it's all done. And it's all done. And it's disgusting. And where the hell is Nancy Pelosi? Where the hell is Chuck Schumer? Where the hell is the leadership of the Democratic Party? Why aren't they holding a press conference? Why aren't they holding press conferences every single day, doing opposition research on this, and bringing some of these underage people that Gaetz is alleged to have slept with, shining a big bright light on that and making it impossible? This is the problem. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are weak and feckless. Donald Trump has been elected president of the United States twice. By definition, Nancy, you are terrible at your job. Chuck, you suck. And it's just, I'm done, man. I'm done with this weak and feckless Democratic leadership. They're leading us over the cliff. You need to withdraw from the Democratic Party. That's the only way Pelosi's going to get the signal. After listening to her New York Times interview, she's still in denial. She still thinks she's doing a great job. She still thinks the party's fine. It's an absolute joke. So I don't know, Doug. you're an honorable man. I respect a lot of you. You know that, but I'm almost done, man. I'm almost done. I'm unplugging from the American political system, and it might be time to move to Southeast Asia.
I hear you, John. There are times when it is almost impossible to keep the faith. I hear you, brother. I go through this every day. Every day. Do I really want to do this every single day for the next 4 years? I was on the air the entire 4 years Trump was in office, and it was the worst 4 years of my entire life. I hated it. There was never a shortage of material, but it was the same thing every day. Lies, disinformation, braggadocio, narcissism, danger. And it's like, do you really want to enmesh yourself in this again for 4 years? I'm not sure I do.
Yeah, it's going to be worse this time because he knows what he's doing. We're headed into hell, man. And if Matt Gaetz gets confirmed, and if Forrest and myself are right, and it's a freaking coin flip for democracy. Are you kidding me? My God. I don't know, Doug. It's either Thailand or the Philippines, baby.
Yeah, I hear you, John. Thanks for calling. You keep the faith as much as you can. Appreciate you.
Great show, Doug.
Thank you, sir. 221-7283 is our caller number, area code 702-221-7283. Back to the phones, and we'll talk to Sarah. You're next. Thanks for calling.
Hey, Doug.
Hey, Sarah. How are you?
I'm good. I disagree with that last caller. I think it's great that they nominated Matt Gaetz. I think he's incompetent in everything he's ever done, and he's really never been in a courtroom. I'd rather him pick him than some guy who's a little bit quieter MAGA, who's a competent attorney that could possibly go after people and effectively execute things for Trump. I don't think Gaetz is competent, and I say let the clown show go. I have to say, I'm an attorney, as you know. I'm an ex-prosecutor of 17 years. He doesn't have the temperament. He'll piss off juries. He'll pick people that he doesn't have to compete with, so they're going to be incompetent as well. I think the reason why Nancy and Chuck, and I've been getting some briefings here in the Texas Democratic Party from some higher ups, I think we're going to let Republicans be Republicans. And I think Nancy's going to, if they want to nominate a clown like Matt Gaetz, and the country wanted Trump, he got the popular vote. He got a lot of people, the working class people that voted for him pretty much, at least where I'm living. And I think we need to let Trump be Trump. And I think we need to, vote our conscience. But if he wants to allow Matt Gaetz and the Republican senators that are going to vote for him, then I don't think that he's going to succeed. That's just my opinion.
Well, it's an interesting take, and I appreciate you making it.
You're welcome.
Okay, take care, Sarah. Thanks for calling. And further to what Sarah just said, there is this thought floating around, and I've read it on more than one place and considered it myself, that maybe Democrats should just let Trump be Trump. Take a back seat, let him overreach, which he will do. He's never satisfied. If he wants to do something, you oppose him, he will fight you until he gets what he wants. If you don't oppose him, he'll just go on to his next step of overreaching and his next one. And the theory behind that is he will self-implode even quicker. The problem is, how much of America is he going to take with him when he self-implodes? I don't think any of us think he will go quietly into the good night. 221-7283 is our call-in number here at the station. Let's talk to Carl. You're next. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, Doug. Hi. As you say, it's still morning spelled with a U, but I'll go along with that. What really bothers me, what frightens me, to be honest with you, is these people that Trump is picking because they're psychologically in tune with him. And that's what scares me terribly.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. He's picking people not in any kind of relation to their competence or expertise, but strictly their loyalty and fealty to him, not to the country, not to the Constitution, but to Donald Trump. And this is the guy the people who voted for him thinks is going to save America. He doesn't give a good goddamn about America or any one of those in his brain-dead MAGA cult base. He is nominating and surrounding himself with people who are loyal to him. That's it.
Yeah, well, it's even more than loyalty, which bothers me. It's the psychological aspects of it that they think he picks these people because they think like he really does. That's worse than just being loyal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I hear you.
You got it?
I got it.
Okay. Okay.
You don't have to snow
right,
twice, Carl. You don't have to snow twice for me to get the drift.
Yeah. Well, it's his.
Carl, let me ask you the question of the day. What are your odds of Matt Gaetz being confirmed or no?
The odds?
Yeah.
I would say 20%.
20% yes or no?
20% that he will be. That's all. 20%. I think.
Okay, I got you. I told Forrest that my gut feeling is that he wouldn't be confirmed. But you know what? I have no confidence in that prediction at all. Like I told Forrest, the day we have to depend on Republicans to save us from whatever, Donald Trump, Matt Gaetz, Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, I mean, that doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence. And listen to the sound clips I'm going to play tomorrow because they kind of changed my mind.
Yeah, well, I think between the Democrats who won't vote for him, there'll be enough Republicans, from what I can understand, who are mentally sufficiently able to see what a danger he is. And I think enough of them will vote against him, too, not to confirm him. So we can only hope, but I think so.
Yep. Here's hoping, Carl. I appreciate you calling, buddy.
Okay. Take care.
I don't know, folks. Hey, you too. I don't know, folks. It is just an entirely different environment in which we live today than we did when Trump was president for the last 4 years. Like I said, he didn't want to unleash all his fascist predispositions his first 4 years because he wanted to get reelected for another 4. This time, what's he got to lose? He's 78 years old. What has he got to preserve or conserve? Nothing. So it's all stops, pulled out, balls to the wall, Trumpism for the next 4 years. And I hear very clearly those of you saying, I'm done or I'm almost done. I'm pretty much in that camp too. The thought of having to do this for 4 years and repeating and reporting on his lies and his attacks on America and the institutions necessary for our democracy's survival. That's a trying task, at least when you enmesh yourself as deeply inside it as I do. If I just paid scant attention, it probably wouldn't be that taxing or trying. But I don't. I pay deep attention. And maybe I shouldn't. Anyhow, folks, I got to run. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you calling. I appreciate you watching. And we'll do this all over again tomorrow, hopefully with you. Until then, take care.
Doug Basham. Your favorite Las Vegas sandwich shop